Alright, so we're going to just start off with a simple moisturizer. I'm just using one that's from Target. It's an up&up brand. Probably the off-brand of one of the more expensive ones. And I'm just going to take a little bit on my fingers and blot it. I'm just looking at this mirror over here, making sure I'm not doing anything too crazy. And so I'm just rubbing it into my skin all over, making sure that I'm just getting a nice subtle amount of moisture on the skin. And before I apply the next product, I'm just going to kind of let this sit, let it wait a little bit. Just a disclaimer, I got my wisdom teeth out about 2 days ago, so I am usually not this chipmunky right here. This is a new look for me, I guess. But I figure I have time now to film this, so may as well do it, right? Alright, and so now that I've kind of let this get into the skin a little bit here, I use a primer, and there's so many different primers out there. I've used the e.l.f. primer, just the clear one, the regular one, and that actually broke me out a lot, and so I really wanted to find another one. I really liked the way it worked, but obviously I had to stop using it. And I looked at the Smashbox, the photo ready one, just the normal one, and I loved it, but it's like $38. There's no way I'm not gonna spend $38 on makeup. So I actually found this Maybelline Baby Skin Instant Pore Eraser. I guess we're not going to get focused on that. But it's about, I want to say $6. I love it personally. It's clear, as you'll see in just a second here. And you can hardly see it. And it has this awesome texture to it, and especially for the price, it's awesome, and it really helps to set the makeup and help it to stay. And I'm just applying that again, kind of like how I applied my moisturizer, but once I get it all smoothed onto the skin, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Now this primer is definitely something that is supposed to kind of erase your pores or blur them out a bit. I have pretty large pores on my nose, and so I'm actually going to just press the product into the pores so that it can help to kind of fill them in so that the makeup doesn't fill in the pores and really accentuate the fact that I have large pores. And my forehead has some pretty good pores as well. My cheeks are fine, and I don't really want to press too hard underneath. They're a little bit sore. But so I'm just gonna press in the areas, and underneath here too, for me, I have some pretty large pores. So I'm just pressing that in. And again, I'm taking this and I'm going to let this sit and set into my skin a little bit before I do my next step, which will be, I guess I can talk about it now. It's going to be concealer. This is the TruBlend Fixstick. I got this pretty recently. I used to not really be a huge fan of concealer personally because I think that it makes a really heavy, cakey look on the face, and I don't like that. But this is in the shade, I don't really know, light, in the shade light, and I like it because I know there's a lot of liquid ones you can use, but I like the control of the stick, and obviously it's kind of like it's a pencil pretty much, and so you're able to really have a lot of control with it. I'm just going to be putting it on my problem areas. I have a couple pimples here and there, and just a lot of significant scarring. That's mainly what I like to cover up, but I'm just kind of blotting it onto the areas that need it. And I'm not doing too much coverage with this because I'm going to be using a medium to heavy coverage foundation, so there's really not all too much of a need for extremely heavy coverage. I know a lot of people talk about the MAC Pro Longwear concealer and that kind of stuff. I personally don't think I need it. My skin isn't perfect by any means, obviously, as you can see, but I don't find it to be so bad to the point that I want to cover every little flaw on my face, because the reality is I have flaws and everyone has flaws. So I'm just trying to cover up the pimples that I had here. Obviously you're still gonna see it. The color is the thing that concealer covers. It's not gonna cover bumps, and I think that that's sometimes for some people this misconception that, oh yeah, it's gonna cover up everything. Some people have very flat pimples or acne scars that aren't, you know, concave or anything like that, and so in that case obviously you can much easier cover up the blemishes and it just ends up being, you know, easier for them. But I have pretty significant indents in my face and my pimples pop out pretty far, so that's that. Alright, and now I'm going to go back in with the concealer, and I just put it under my eyes. I have kind of weird discoloration under my eyes. I don't know if you can really see it, but I'm just going in a triangle kind of shape, and then I have really weird discoloration up in here, like right at the top of my nose to my eyebrow, and so this is what I look like on this side, but don't worry, I'll blend it out. But same thing for this, just going in a triangle kind of shape. I have really bad discoloration right on like the sides of my eyes, and so I'm going to be covering that pretty well, and same thing going in here with the concealer stick. But this is why I really enjoy this concealer stick, because you can really get into these places without getting a bunch of product on your hands. I don't love to have liquid concealer all over my hands. I apply my foundation, which is a liquid, with a foundation brush as well, so I don't like a lot of product all over myself. But as you can see with all of the concealer that I've done, I've really just been pressing and patting it into my skin, and that's something to consider, because if you're rubbing it, you're kind of making the product go on your face a little bit thinner and helping your skin to absorb it a lot more. And I don't necessarily want my skin to like absorb it, but I want it to just lay on top of it. And if you can see, there's obviously a huge difference now. This eye is definitely not as you know, red and kind of weirdly colored. And I used to, you know, kind of have a little bit of trouble with my foundation, especially around my eyes, before I really started using this method. I know some people, they like to highlight under the eyes with a lighter concealer after they put the foundation on. I'm not a huge fan of that either, to be quite honest, because I don't think that it ever looks natural, and I've tried it many different ways, really experimented with it, and I'm not a fan. I don't necessarily, I am so puffy. Oh my goodness, okay. That's beside the point. But as you can see, I've really blended it in, really made it work for my skin, and the concealer really does help to get rid of a lot of that redness that I have everywhere. I have a lot of redness here, which again, I'm going to go in with the concealer stick. I do this a lot. I kind of figure out where I have like the most redness, and then I conceal. And so I'm taking that just around my nose, because I've got a significant amount of redness. You really don't have to do this, especially if you have really good skin, you're gonna be fine. But I have kind of weird skin. I have very combo skin, so around my nose I'm super oily, and then my cheeks are actually pretty dry, and my forehead's really dry, and so that's kind of weird. But I'm just one of those lucky ones, I guess, right? Okay. Next step, obviously with that concealer, I kind of let that primer that I showed you by Maybelline, I let that dry a little bit. So the main point of a primer for me, from, you know, my case, is to set my foundation, and that's a big thing. But I guess this next part is the actual foundation part, and I use Almay TLC, which is Truly Lasting Color. This is the shade Neutral 220. The one awful thing about this foundation and this, I guess Almay in general, is they have no selection of colors, but Almay is actually one of the only drugstore brands that is hypoallergenic, and that is something that everyone who has acne should really consider, because anything that's hypoallergenic really tends to not break you out. I've tried other foundations and they have broke me out incredibly bad, and the reality is I have to always find, you know, a product that's going to be hypoallergenic, because otherwise I look like a monster. And so anyways, I'm just taking, I don't really use much of this, especially because I've put on so much concealer, but I'm just going to take a pump or so on the back of my hand for now. And I have, this is the e.l.f. powder brush, and I actually use this for my foundation because it's just like a stippling brush. And it's wonderful. It's like $3 at Target. Great. So I'm just taking this and I'm taking my brush and dotting it in there. And then I'm going in on my cheeks that are incredibly puffy right now. And I'm just dotting this in, and I'm not really getting it too much on the concealer. I'm just kind of blending out the under eye concealer that I had, and then taking this and kind of bringing it down. I'm really more pressing this into the skin, if you can see that. I seriously, guys, I promise you my face doesn't look like this on a normal day. I look like a crazy person. Alright. I'm just taking this, I don't know why my camera stopped, and I'm just pressing it all over my face. Except for I'm not putting much on the under eye, and I'm just gonna give myself another pump here for the other side of my face and my forehead. Like I said, the color options are really pathetic in my opinion. There's really not many to choose from. I'm lucky that I found one that really matches my face. Usually it's kind of getting to summertime right now, and so usually I'm the kind of person that I'll mix foundations, so I'll buy like 2 of theirs and then I'll end up mixing them to get them to be, you know, the right shade for me, and that can be kind of irritating. But this foundation is awesome. It really does a great job of being kind of a full coverage if you want it to be, if you build it up to be and put on a bunch of layers, but it does not break me out ever. And so I've tried other foundations. I've tried Clinique, and that broke me out pretty bad, which people were really surprised by, but I have incredibly sensitive skin. That's why my acne is so, or previously was so bad. And I didn't really know that makeup was, you know, contributing to this issue. I've been interrupted like 300 times during this video. But I'm just gonna continue. I actually put foundation on my eyelids too. I know I did kind of go over the eyelids with a little bit of concealer, but I like the face to kind of all just be one shade in a foolproof one shade. That hurts to say with this whole cheek situation. So again, I'm just gonna kind of let this sit. I try really hard to let each layer kind of set for a little bit before I move on, because otherwise, especially if I would put on a powder now, it would tend to maybe cake up a little bit. But obviously it's really important to set, especially this under eye concealer. You can tell it's a little bit shiny, and obviously I'm the kind of person that's like matte finish for sure. I love matte finish. And so I'll talk to you just about the product that I'm going to be using and the brush that I'm going to be using. The brush is another e.l.f. It's the e.l.f. Complexion brush. This isn't going to focus. But this is again $3 from their Studio line. I love this brush. The bristles are so soft, and it gives you great coverage, a great look, and it's really wonderful. I'm using the powder CoverGirl TruBlend. This is also Drugstore. Everything I'm using here is 100% drugstore. I'm pretty sure I bought everything from Target, which is considered drugstore. But yeah, this is in the shade Translucent Light, and it's a little bit light for me, but my foundation is a little bit pink for my face, a little, and this is much more yellow, and so it kind of evens out what I'm doing here. Also, when you do your foundation, I guess I didn't really explicitly say this, bring it down to your neck a little bit. Make sure that you are kind of blending. You don't want a thick line here and here of your foundation where it just ends. You want to bring it down, and this brush obviously has a good amount of excess product on it because I haven't washed it yet after that use. So just bring it down the neck, and this is pretty much set, so I'm going to just put the powder on. I'm just getting kind of one side of this, and I'm starting off with the under eye, and so I'm just setting the under eye first. I have something in my eye. Just putting that in the under eye. And then I do the cheeks a little bit. I don't do it too much because I do usually apply a blush and bronzer. I couldn't think of either of those words. I don't know. But I'm doing a really light amount of product on the brush because this brush rocks. It seriously carries over everything, and so there's not really too much of a need to really cake it on. In my case, yes, I have acne and you can still see it through my makeup, but I don't feel the need to have this caked on face. And I'm going to go down on under my neck as well because I did just put a little bit of product there. And yeah, so this is just my foundation and concealer routine. This is kind of the finished product for this part, but I will come back after I kind of have like a little bit of a finished look. I'm not doing anything special today because obviously I'm not feeling too hot, and I definitely have Alright guys, I am back. I still haven't yet to do my hair. I don't think I'm even going to do my hair today. I am very sore. But all I did was just a little blush, bronzer. I did a little bit of work on my eyes, my eyebrows, that kind of thing. But yeah, the base of it is obviously the foundation, and I think that that enhances any look. I think that it really helps to just smooth out all of the imperfections and have people focus on your own face and not your blemishes, not your acne scars, and that kind of thing. And that's really what the main focus of this video was. I hope you enjoyed it. I still can't smile. It hurts too much. But I hope that you check back in again later. I'd love to show you guys some more tutorials on how to do a blush bronzer kind of thing, how to maybe fill in eyebrows, how to do eye makeup, mascara. This is really a generic, basic look for me. Usually I do a little bit more, but obviously I'm not doing it today. But if you guys want to see some more tutorials, maybe some more makeup looks, just let me know on my blog, and thanks again for watching.